So I have a quick question to ask you. Have you ever thought about starting a reading habit? Or maybe you're a once in every blue moon type of reader, but you want to be more consistent and maintain a reading habit. Or maybe you're an avid reader, but you're interested in having a more intentional and fulfilling reading life. Does that sound like you? If any of those scenarios sound like you in even the slightest, I want to invite you to take the What's Your Reader Type quiz. It will only take 60 seconds of your time and you'll discover your reader type. But most importantly, you'll get the resources you need to start reading, maintain the habit, and get intentional. So visit readertypequiz.com. That's readertypequiz.com. It will only take you 60 seconds and you'll discover your reader type and get the resources you need. So whether you're an aspiring or avid reader, go to readertypequiz.com, spend 60 seconds and take the quiz that will help you get clear on where you are right now and what you need to do to live your best reading and literary life yet. Hello. I'm Victoria from Biblio Lifestyle, and you're listening to the Reader's Couch podcast, the show that will help you bridge the gap between living a full and busy life to one where you're reading, learning new things, and having fun. Today on the couch, I'm so excited to welcome author Natasha Feldman to talk about her new book, The Dinner Party Project, a no-stress guide to food with friends. The Dinner Party Project is a modern manual for our time that shares the secrets to throwing fun and delicious no-stress gatherings. In this book, you'll find over 80 recipes as well as menu ideas, illustrations, sketches, easy flowcharts, and practical tips all created to ensure that everyone enjoys the party, especially the host. Now, in this episode, Natasha and I talk about so many things. She also shares her must-have kitchen tools, ingredients, tips on how to read recipes, cooking tips, plus lots more. So, let's get into the episode because I can't wait for you to listen to my chat with author Natasha Feldman. Hi there, could you do me a favour really quick? Would you pretty please subscribe to the show, leave me a 5-star rating if you like it, and share an episode or two with your bookish friends? Better yet, if you could drop a link to the show or to your favourite episode in your book club or bookish group chat, that works too. I promise it only takes a few seconds, it really helps the show, plus I'll be incredibly grateful for it. So thanks in advance, and now on to the episode. Hi readers, welcome again to the Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood, and here on the couch with me is a cooking show host, private chef, producer, and food stylist who firmly believes everyone can cook tasty food at home. But she's here on the couch with me to say the dinner party is back and to talk about her new book, The Dinner Party Project. Please welcome to the couch, Natasha Feldman. Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Victoria. Thanks for having me. This couch is very comfortable.
Yay! I'm so happy you're here. Really excited to talk about your book. But before we get into the details, how are you feeling? How excited are you? Your book's been out now. Readers can get their hands on a copy. Just waltz into the bookstore and grab it and go. But how are you feeling? How excited are you?
Yesterday I had a work dinner and I noticed that there was an Anthropologie a few blocks away. And I pulled over and I parked the car and I ran in because I thought they might have the book. And they did. And I grabbed them all, like this giant pile of books. And I went up to the person who was at the cash register and I was like, hello, I wrote this book. May I sign them? And she just looked at me with these giant deer in the headlight eyes. And she was like, you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that before. Let me get my manager. So then she asks for her manager asks for her manager. And so it's like everybody in the store is around me now. And they're like, yeah, you can sign them. And it was so fun just to, see them. I've seen them in tons of bookstores, but to see them in a sort of a lifestyle store where I really feel like people can also like get the bowls and plates and all the things that might inspire them, other than the physical book, was really exciting. And just seeing them in the world and mostly seeing what people make and share with me is like a thrill that just, I keep thinking it's gonna like, be not as exciting, but every time I just like pee my pants a little.
Oh, I love it. And I love this anthropology story.
Right?
Just so classic. So classic. I've never had anyone ask me that before. And then there's this herd and like, yes, assign them.
Oh, it was funny. They were like, I think they were part like, I don't know, did she write them? And then another part was like, what if can we sell them if there's, so there were like so many questions swirling in their mind, but eventually they were like, yeah, sure, sign them. It was really fun.
Oh yeah. So really exciting. And yes, signed books sell. Readers listen to this podcast. They know we will seek out a signed copy by an author. So I just thought it was just kind of endearing hearing that and sweet and fun at the same time. But Natasha, I want readers to hear straight from you. Tell us about the Dinner Party Project. What's your elevator pitch basically? And what can readers expect when they pick up your book?
Yeah, the Dinner Party Project is, as the cover says, a no-stress guide to food with friends. And as someone who's been a private chef for a very long time and has taught corporate cooking classes and Zoom cooking classes, I have been accumulating all of the reasons why people think they can't have dinner parties. And this book just systematically breaks them down till there is nothing between you and having your people over. And really, I just wanted somebody to have a tool with them at all times, like a new culinary best friend who can help you find the dinner party that meets you where you are. So if that means you're going to order takeout and make a cocktail, and that's what you can handle for, your level of stress and your lifestyle, that's a dinner party. And sort of removing all of the shame and sort of nastiness that I think, generations of performative dinner parties have taught us, and just to really make it about being with your people, spending quality time, making new friends, solidifying the relationships that you have. The Surgeon General just came out with a book that's all about loneliness and the loneliness epidemic, and how it can lead to premature deaths just as much as a pack of cigarettes a day. And, we're not a world that's getting smaller. And I think it's really important to like maintain your relationships and make them stronger. And the dinner party is like the best, easiest way to do that.
Absolutely. And the first thing a reader will encounter when they pick up this book and they open it, right on the inside cover in big, bold blue letters, is cooking and eating dinner with friends is scientifically proven to increase happiness. So why don't we do it more often? And I think you kind of answered it there, saying that there's a lot of shame and stigma associated with, how to host a dinner party. What is the right way? What's not allowed, and just all these different barriers. So I appreciate the fact that now we have your book, which is empowering people to say you can do it. And especially for folks who are just very tired, because I think right now there is going to be a listener, there is going to be a reader who is saying, hey, Natasha, this sounds great, but why should I be hosting dinner parties? What's in it for me? Why don't we just not do this? It sounds like too much of a hassle. And also, I'm tired and I don't have time to host a dinner party. What would you say to them?
Well, I think that I totally hear that. And I feel that way all the time, obviously. And it's really about priority, in the same way that you might not want to go to the gym, or you might not want to get out of bed and, go to work. There are certain things you have to do to, maintain those lowest elements of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like you need money so that you can have a roof over your head. You need to exercise so that your body doesn't fail you. And having community is another one of those major pillars that you need for a long and healthy life. And I definitely have friends that are, incredibly introverted, that when they first start doing them, they feel uncomfortable. But just like anything good, you get past the small amounts of discomfort. And you also start to recognize that people just want to be there to spend time with you as you are. And the more that you can have people interact with you in that way, I think the easier it becomes to do. You can, like, I have had, like, days where I had a show that was supposed to be picked up for a second season, and I had like let go of 4 other jobs, and then it didn't get picked up. And I had people over that night, and we would eat pizza and pop open a bottle of cheap champagne or whatever and just kind of wallow in it together. And we're pack animals, and it's really important to have that group around you, to have those people that you can just show up exactly as you are. And that's what the dinner party allows you to do, and to really foster those relationships so that you don't feel so isolated.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I think we all learned from the pandemic is just, it's really hard when you are isolated. And I think even now, there are folks slowly but surely kind of getting back out there. I know for me personally, when we started getting back out there, I felt I lost my social skills. I didn't know what I was doing, what I was saying. And the same thing can be said for hosting dinner parties, having friends, family, loved ones, just anyone around you. I think it's incredibly important for your mental health. I think it can make you a lot happier. And we need those social skills, because the last thing we want to be doing is just be stuck behind our cell phones or computers. We do need that in-person connection.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And like I really liked the point that you made about how, the pandemic has sort of in a way stripped us of what we thought were our, good grace social habits and how to have people over. And that's why I think this is the perfect time for this book, because you kind of get to reinvent what it means to you. And maybe before you were the kind of person who was like, oh, I can't have people over because, my oven is the kind of oven that's actually a home for my shoes. And you thought you'd have to cook a meal. And like now we're saying like, no, you saw what it's like to not have community. Order takeout. You saw what it's like to not have community. Have everybody bring one dish. You saw what it's like to not have people over. So now is the time to sort of reinvest in yourself and how you do that, and you get to make all those decisions again.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am the queen of just going to the store, getting pre-made things and putting it in a dish at home or something to kind of dress it up a bit. And I'm happier than a clam in high tide. So
yeah, one of the best things about a grocery store is the rotisserie chicken. Like every grocery store, even if it's the worst grocery store on earth, for whatever reason, the rotisserie chicken is always good.
Yes, I am here for that. I co-sign that 100%. And I'm a regular with that rotisserie chicken. Other things we might have to touch and go, but the chicken is good. So, and again, you're hearing this straight from Natasha, not just me. So get that rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, no shame. Have fun. Make it your own. No stress.
Absolutely. I love it. So, okay, maybe we've sold some people. We've sold some people. Host the dinner party, which again, you need to get this book, The Dinner Party Project. But Natasha, really quick, just share with our listeners some dinner party basics. What are like the 3 things that they need to decide when they're hosting the dinner party?
So I think the most important thing is to create an environment that you feel comfortable in, because if you are stressed out, your guests will be stressed out. And I think the best way to do that is to what I call AHS, always have snacks. So when anybody arrives, like no matter if they're starving or if your dinner is running late or if you burn the chicken, whatever it is, there's like little things that people can munch on. It keeps people really happy. It removes the like freak out of like, when am I going to get fed? Or the person who's cooking who's worried about like you waiting too long. And it's just like a really fun way to start a dinner party. And that can be like making an appetizer, or it can be opening, 5 bags of strange assorted chips, whatever it is. I think having snacks is a really important thing to have. Another thing that, this might not be true for really advanced dinner party hosts, but I always say, make one dish that's temperature sensitive and everything else should be good at room temp or cold. That way you're just kind of like, even though it's light multitasking, you're really only focusing on one element. It's like searing a steak or like making sure the pasta is hot, whatever it is. And then everything else, you just want it to be plug and play. So keep it as simple as possible. And the third tip is like I was sort of saying earlier, you want the dinner party to meet you where you are. So if you planned a really big, beautiful dinner, but then had a crap day at work and got home an hour late, you have two choices. You can cancel the dinner party and everybody will understand, or you can keep those ingredients in your fridge for another day and you can just order pizza. It's like you have, in the same way that with the rest of your life, there's a fluidity with which you have to sort of, go through modern life. You have to think about the dinner party in that way too. And don't just feel like you have to do something because you said you were going to do it.
Love it, absolutely love it. And Natasha's book also has a section dedicated to the dinner party basics, so you'll find that there. My personal favorite is What Should I Make for Dinner? The flow chart. And I just loved how bright, they're blue bubbles, they're yellow bubbles, they're all connected. It's a proper flow chart. And it's asking you just some basic things like, okay, how long do you have to cook? What kind of kitchen do you have? Do you have just the basics or do you have more advanced? And then there are food recommendations. So again, if for nothing else, get the book because of the flow chart. Also, there are great menus in there. There's a taco night menu, pizza night menu, Mediterranean, bistro, steakhouse. I mean, old Jewish lady night. I was howling when I saw that. I mean, there's just so much in here. Summer Shrimp Fest, pretending it's autumn in LA. You guys, she has the menus to help us out. And there are pages of menus. I just gave you a couple off the top. So Natasha's really breaking barriers to kind of help us navigate this space. Of course, there are great recipes in the book, of course. Another cheese flow chart is in there as well. But yeah, it's really approachable, Natasha, and I appreciate it so much. But now I want to know, like, how did you become a dinner partier? How did we get here? What inspired the book? What's your backstory? I want to know.
Wow, I love how you express the book. I need to listen to this again just so that I can start using your verbiage. It's very powerful. I have been hosting dinner parties regularly since I got out of college, mainly because right after college, I went to culinary school. And this will tie into this story, in a way, but I'm dyslexic. And for me, just reading something on a page is not a very effective way for me to learn. I really have to do it and see it and kind of smell it and, feel it and do all of the tactile things. So at the end of the day at school, I would want to recreate everything. But then I ended up with this immense amount of food. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going to start having dinner parties. So they just sort of started out of the necessity of not wanting to waste. And, we were all just out of school. People were assistants in mailrooms. We were all, nobody was flush with cash. So it was really nice to be able to have this opportunity to have people over, to feed them, to feel like we were sort of experiencing the high highs and the low lows of that time together. And it honestly became an addiction and is something that me and my group of friends have never let go of. And it's just sort of like built itself to this point where I feel, I live in Los Angeles. It's a big city. And I feel like I have this amazing community. It doesn't feel lonely. There's always somebody I can talk to if I need to. And a lot of that, I just, give full credit to spending, really fostering those relationships via the dinner party. And the way that this book sort of came to be is very similar. I always wanted to write a cookbook. I love storytelling. And because I'm dyslexic, I have a hard time with a lot of cookbooks because a lot of them don't have a photo for every recipe. So I feel a little bit like I can't picture what you want it to look like. So in this book, I was like, I want to make a book that every single recipe has a photo where if you look at it, it kind of shows you like how big or small something's going to be diced, what it can realistically look like versus what it can aspirationally look like. And, all the flow charts and things like that are just because different people learn in different ways and different things calm people's nervous system. So whether or not you're the kind of person who just wants me to tell you what to make, or if you really like kind of want to get in there and pick them yourselves, I wanted everybody to be able to find something that felt good and comfortable for them. And another way that that's really expressed is through, there's a ton of illustrations in the book to kind of break down some steps that would be kind of wordy, because I wanted to have as few words as possible to get the points across and have different modalities of storytelling kind of fill in the rest. And so, that was sort of how this whole thing kind of came together.
I love hearing that something that you struggle with turned into this beautiful book just because you want to make it easier for folks because it's hard for you. And I almost think that's your superpower in a way, because I think that's what I appreciated about the book is that I had the flow charts, I had the mini menus, I had the illustrations throughout. It wasn't just word heavy and the odd picture here and there, because you're absolutely right. Not all cookbooks include pictures for everything or even illustrations. And I love the realistic versus aspirational, because again, we live in a society where, everything's on social media. Instagram is the OG of beautiful photography and aspirational lifestyle, in my opinion. And so when folks see stuff on IG, they're like, I can't do that. There's no way. Well, my home doesn't look like that. So how can I have a dinner party,
Yeah. It's just you and your hot mess, just show up as you are and your friends are going to appreciate you more for it. We've had construction, we had water damage. So we literally had like every other wall missing, and we still had dinner parties. And then we had a room that was cordoned off with like, it looked like there was some sort of like a biological waste behind it. It was like zippered off, and I was like, whatever, we're still having people over. And that's, you might not want to have your boss over in that instance, but these are all opportunities to like grow yourself and to show more of who you are and to be more authentic in the world. And I kind of feel like that's the best we can try to do.
Absolutely. I'm here for just more authenticity and showing up as you are, because I think we need more representation of that. And I think this book will empower folks to have their friends and family over. Yes, maybe not the boss, but just those people who know you for you and love you and appreciate you. Invite them over, host the dinner party, and just make it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think if you don't feel like you have those people, this is a way to create those people too.
Oh, you know what? That is a great, great point. I mean, I was just so used to living in, a smaller town, a smaller village, but folks just kind of communing after work. I'm used to a culture of when work ends, we don't go home right away. We get together, whether it's coffee, it's tea, it's drinks, it's whatever. We get together and we commune, and then we go home to our respective lives. Or on the weekend, kind of walking to get lunch or having folks round. It's so very common. And then when you move to a new place, or you're trying to make friends, it can be incredibly difficult. But I think folks normally commune around food. So even if you don't want to host it at your house for the first time, maybe pick a neutral place, maybe a park, a beach. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. One of the ways that, I talk about it is like, pick your people, pick your place. And place will dictate the kinds of recipes that you will serve, but it will also dictate how comfortable you feel. And if they're total strangers and you don't want to have them in your house, I think a park is a well-lit park is an excellent idea. And, I feel like I take for granted that I've lived in the same city for so long, but a lot of the people that are my closest friends, I met them, at a concert because they were dating someone that I barely knew that I happened to run into. They invited me over for a dinner party, and like the rest is history. And I talk about that in the opening of the book. Like my dog, who is basically my daughter, I could not be more obsessed with her. I literally got her because I was at someone's house that I didn't know very well for a dinner party. And she had another dog and they didn't get along, and she was about to have her second kid. And I was like, I will take this dog off your hands. Like, this is supposed to be my dog. And I freaking got her. And it's like the power of dinner parties, it's like a crazy manifestation of fostering the kind of life that you want. But I like legitimately got the dog of my dreams at a dinner party.
Oh my gosh, that is wild.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That is wild, but so cool at the same time. Wow. Okay, Natasha, I want to get into your writing life really quick. How long did it take for you to put together the dinner party project?
So I did a proposal first that was about 75 pages, and that really helped me sort of figure out the tone and what I wanted to say and some major fundamental building blocks. So having that already, the actual writing of the book took about 8 months.
8 months. Okay. What would you say was the most difficult part of your creative process?
The writing part. I've been recipe testing and developing recipes, creating recipes for brands for a decade. So that part is relatively simple. I did want every single recipe to go with like 5 other recipes. So I did have this like giant Rain Man type, pin boards that I could make sure that everything had components that could fit with other dishes. But when I sat down to really make the story out of all of the recipes, I had a really hard time getting the thoughts from my brain onto paper. I can have like very long, cohesive, whole paragraph thoughts, but then as soon as my fingers touch the keyboard, it's like no words come out. So the hardest part for me was figuring out how to connect my brain to my fingers. And
Mhm.
some of that was jotting down notes, going for walks, doing voice record, talking to friends, having them say things back to me. I used a lot of different modalities to kind of help weave the story together. And then I do have a very close friend, Lily Diamond, who is an amazing writer. And she helped me comb through things. I have a friend, Justin Noble, who's a comedy writer, and he, looked at some stuff. And another friend, Jordan Kisner, who's a long form essayist. And I really leaned on other people too to kind of help me get over myself and to kind of make me feel like I could do it.
Oh, I love hearing that. It's always great having that support system.
You need it.
Um, Looking back, though, now that you've written the book, if you could tell your younger self anything, your younger chef, food developer, food stylist, I mean, you're doing all the things, but if you could tell her anything, what would you tell her looking back?
You know, I I have struggled as most adult humans do with imposter syndrome and feeling like I actually don't think at any moment prior to when I started writing the book, I don't think I could have done it. Like it took all the odd jobs, like working as an assistant to teaching cooking classes, recipe developing for like the most bizarre brand, being asked to make a 30-pound Cheeto for a commercial, every single odd job along the way, all the food styling, all the production kind of slowly started giving me all the tools so that this was something that felt squarely in my wheelhouse. And I think along the road, I felt very self conscious about all the odd jobs and sort of feeling um, you, when people are like, what do you do? And you're like, well, it's like I have 7 hyphens, and I felt really embarrassed by it, honestly, for quite a long time. But sort of, if I hadn't done some of those things, I don't think I would have felt that I had the confidence to really be able to like write this and write it how I wanted it. And I think I just would have been less hard on myself.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of us kind of face that and struggle with defining what do we do. I still don't know how to say what I do.
Yeah. And even now, it's like, oh, finally I can be like cookbook author. But then they're like, how many books? And I'm like, well, one, it's like, okay, so are you a cookbook author or you just wrote a cookbook? But it's kind of one of those things you realize that it's like, there's always going to be something, and just kind of doing what you love, trusting the process, obviously finding enough way to make money while you're doing that thing. But just knowing that if you're working hard at something that you love, it will lead somewhere else, and to have fun with it along the way. And I'm really grateful that I did all those bizarre things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Natasha, I'm going to solicit you for some tips for my listeners. So I'm just going to give you like 3 scenarios and you tell me what you recommend or what you do. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. What are some kitchen tools that you can't do without? 3 to 5.
You need a microplane zester. You want garlic for dressing. You want Parmesan on top of pasta. You want grated ginger. You need a microplane zester. It's going to get that fine zest. It is incredibly portable. They last for a long time. You need one. You also need a fish spatula. It's a very thin, malleable spatula that can get under just about anything. And they're very inexpensive. They're really easy to replace. And I just find that my dexterity with them is so much better than with any other spatula. Like those thick plastic spatulas are my actual nemesis. Like you need a nice metal fish spatula. So those are 2 things. And the third, I would say, I have a lot of different things that I love, but a kitchen knife that is like a reliable workhorse, something that, you maintain its sharp blade, that has good weight distribution, that feels good in your hand, that you get really used to, is very important to being able to feel like you're confident in the kitchen.
Love it. What 3 ingredients you can't do without?
Salt. And I need multiple salts. You gotta have a fine grain salt and like a really delicious, coarse, flaky salt, like a Maldon or a Jacobsen. I like to have different textures. I'm also like, I might as well just have olive oil running through my blood. I use it for everything. I think that, almost any time something isn't crispy enough or isn't flavorful enough, or it's like there's always some kind of like fat distribution problem. So olive oil is like a really great tool that I use in just about everything. And a third ingredient, I live in Southern California now, so I think for me, because there's such a bounty of like delicious, beautiful, fresh vegetables, having an assortment of spices and fresh herbs to kind of dress up just really simple like produce makes everything really fresh and vibrant. So I would say herbs and spices. But I also want to say citrus because you got to have lemons.
Yeah, I love that because I have to have lemons too.
You must.
Yeah, that's a bonus. Love it. All right. Now, your book has some really great recipes. Again, they're just very approachable. The illustrations help and all the notes help as well. But what are 3 things readers should know before approaching the recipe? They're looking in the book, they're seeing it. What should they pay attention to?
This is not even about my book, but in general, the first thing you have to do is read the recipe all the way through. Like I teach a lot of cooking classes and I cannot tell people to do that enough. Like inevitably someone isn't going to do it and is going to be so confused. So I like to say like, read the recipe through and then in your head, walk yourself through the recipe. Then when you're actually doing it, you're going to be so much less stressed out. If you need garlic halfway through, you're going to know it before you start. Sometimes recipes will just sneak in there and then refrigerate overnight, and you're like, no, you have to tell me that before I'm already in the recipe. But that kind of stuff happens. So really, really read it, feel like you know it intimately, and that's going to make your life significantly easier. The other, another thing is be mindful that ingredients, are not created equally. And depending on where you live, what season it is, like one tomato for me might be very different from one tomato for you. So in the book and in most cookbooks, in addition to a time, like 10 minutes, it will almost always have an indication of doneness. So like you're looking for it to be, juicy and blistered or, soft and the silky. I don't know those are the kinds of things that you really want to pay attention to because the timing might not be exactly the same. And also you might look in there and be like, oh, this isn't juicy at all. You might want to add another tomato because I was working with something that was potentially much juicier and in season. So sort of being able to trust yourself to follow the guidelines of what it should look like is more important than following the time. So always sort of be mindful of that and mindful that not all ingredients are created equal. And then the third thing I would say that's important for my book and really for any book is that the first time you make something is not the last time you make something. And everybody that cooks professionally opens a cookbook, makes a dish, and is like, what did I do? Like messing up is sort of a part of the fun. And when I mess up a recipe, I'll usually like leave a note, like on a Post-it note, and kind of put it in there like, oh, last time, this thing went wrong for this reason. So then when I go back to try it again, I sort of like know where the pitfalls were, because, you're going to get distracted. You're going to do something wrong. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that the recipe is bad or that you should give up. It just means, you might want to revisit.
Love that. It definitely shouldn't be the first time. It's something you should be making again and again, and you'll definitely perfect it. So yes, I appreciate that a lot. Okay, Natasha, I know we're here to talk about your book, The Dinner Party Project, but we want to know about your reading life. So tell us about the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend.
I am currently reading Clara and the Sun. I really, really like books that kind of like touch magical realism. Like I love anything that's like Ionesco or Lorca, sort of that space in between what is real and sort of like what your brain is thinking, and that space in between the two that feels like it could happen but isn't going to. And sort of experimenting in that world. So those are the kinds of things that I find to be incredibly yummy. So I'm really enjoying Clara and the Sun and would highly recommend it. I also recently read Dance, 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 which is in sort of a similar boat. But also, on the other hand, I have a real soft spot for historical fiction, and I'm like really obsessed with Kate Quinn. Have you read her books?
Love Kate Quinn.
She's a freaking genius. I feel like The Huntress is one of the best things I've ever read, and I am like drooling to get my hands on The Briar Club. I gave her a copy of the book, and she really liked it, and I was like, okay, I can die now.
Well, may I add to your reading list The Rose Code by Kate Quinn?
I mean, it's amazing. I've read all of her books. Like, I can't stop. I have a problem.
I know. Well, my last two by her were The Rose Code and then The Diamond Eye. Yes, The Diamond Eye and The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. Oh, so good.
She is just, I feel like the way that she is able to create these really complex heroes that are, that are always women is just like such a pleasure. And the deep amount of research that goes into them, it's like, I recognize that I couldn't do it. So I find it just magnificent.
Absolutely. And she was a joy to chat to because I had her on a podcast a while back too. Amazing, amazing. All right. What was your favorite childhood book that you can remember?
Stregonona.
Oh, nice.
Did you read that?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Oh, have I got a book for you, Victoria? Okay, so Stregonona is about a woman, an Italian grandma witch who lives in this small town, and she has a pasta pot that can make unlimited pasta. But you have to have delicate hands and know when to start it and when to stop it. And she has an apprentice, Tony, who, when she is out one day, gets greedy and decides he's going to turn on the pasta pot. And it fills the entire village with pasta. And the illustrations are really gorgeous, and the way that the pasta falls is very artistic. And his punishment is that he has to eat all the pasta to make the town not full of pasta. And it's such a joy. And like I said, the illustrations are gorgeous, and I just like could not get enough of it as a kid.
Well, I just Googled it, found it, and I am adding Stregonona to my reading list. I love this.
I actually wrote my vows in a copy of Stregonona just because that's how much I love it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so in addition to books, we also love bookstores. Tell me about your childhood favorite, local favorite, something you discovered on your travels. Tell me about a favorite indie bookstore of yours.
I spent a lot of my childhood in San Diego, and I'm a huge fan of Warwick's, which is in downtown La Jolla, and has been there, I don't know, I want to say since like the 20s, but I'm sure I'm making that up. And everybody that works there, just absolutely loves reading, and they're so generous with their time, and they love to share the books that they love. And it's this really sort of like beautiful community. And that's got to be my favorite indie bookstore. I also I met somebody recently who has a few bookstores in Miami called Books and Books, one of which has a
Mhm.
cafe. And I can't wait to spend some time there. And I also recently did a bunch of book signings at Books Are Magic and
Mhm.
did find that to be an incredibly magical location.
Amazing. That sounds really good. We love our indie bookstores. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that you have your childhood favorite and also made some new friends at Books Are Magic and Books Are Books.
Yeah.
That's
Book people
awesome.
are the best people.
They really are. I always say book people are the best people. They're the most kind, the most forgiving. They show up for you. Just really amazing folks for sure.
And I never ever read as a kid, because
No way.
well, being dyslexic, like
True.
reading can be very frustrating. I hated being called on in class. I have to sometimes go back because I don't pick things up as quickly when I'm just sort of when there isn't anything other than just language. And it's really my husband. We've been together for almost a decade, and he would not let me not be a reader. He was like, I will not be with somebody who is not a reader. I think you will love reading. You just have to practice. And he like forced me to read every single night for like a year. And by the end of that year, now I'm a very, very fast reader, and we like go through so many books. But it wasn't really until him and forcing me to get past myself that I became like a voracious reader.
I actually love hearing that story because there are folks who, they didn't enjoy reading books when they're much younger and they find joy in reading now. So I'm so happy to hear that's your story and that now you're reading. Quick question, have you tried audiobooks?
Oh yeah, love them. Can't get enough.
Okay, amazing, amazing.
My friend is an author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I love listening to her books on Audible. Because they're so cinematic, and
Yeah.
and I really like all the hearing all the different characters. And I also love when like somebody famous that you love ends up doing a book. Like I don't remember what it was, but I listened to a book not that long ago, and Norbert Leo Butz was the narrator, and I was just like, what are the odds that one of my favorite musical theater actors happens to be narrating this book? Or when like Michelle Obama narrates her own book, like what could be better?
You're absolutely right. And I remember the first time I heard like a superstar reading a book was when Tom Hanks read The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. It blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool to see, it sort of feels like Martha Graham's, like if you can't say it, sing it. If you can't sing it, dance it. There's just like something about that additional element that really helps bring it to life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Natasha, I've had so much fun here chatting with you about the dinner party projects, books, reading, bookstores, and everything. But I want to hear from you. I know you've done your job, you've written a book, you've given it to us, it's out there. Folks can go get a copy of the dinner party project. But what are you hoping readers might learn or take away or feel even after they've picked up your book? What are you hoping for?
I am hoping that people experience a transformation in their interpretation of having people over, and that it's something that you do. I like, honestly, the best word I can think of is like religiously. Do it once a month, do it once a week, make it a practice. And I think there's no way it doesn't make your life better. And I really, really, really hope that people will give it enough time to really be able to see the benefits of it. And one of the things that I think is really special about dinner parties, especially, like you were mentioning in the time of social media, is it's so easy to think that people that have different beliefs are worse people than they are because, that's all you see. And I love getting to sit down with people and break bread who have differentiated opinions, and it really makes you more empathetic. And I hope that people get that benefit as well.
Absolutely, because I really believe you can hear people, like actually hear and listen to people more when they're in front of you, as opposed to behind a screen where you can't even see
Absolutely.
them. So I co-sign that 100%. Readers, I hope you will give this book a go. It's the dinner party project, if I haven't said it enough already, but it's a no-stress guide to food with friends. Natasha, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It really, really has been, and I can't wait to see what you're going to make from the book next.
Yay, I will. I'll be posting on social.
Okay, have a great one, Victoria.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Reader's Couch podcast. Please subscribe to the show, share it with a friend, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Until next time, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks again for listening, and happy reading.